Jared, walk me through what this first half of the season has been like for you personally, because I can only imagine, obviously, going into the season and now going with this team every single day. What has this been like for you during the first half of the season?
Well, it's been bittersweet and way more bitter than sweet because, all this is unfolding without one of my closest friends and a mentor of mine for almost now actually probably right around half my life, and that's Eric Nadell. So, I've had a blast watching this team win games. I tell you guys all the time, I don't think it's any secret. I grew up in the area, and the Rangers, the Mavs, the Stars. I mean, those are my teams, right? And I was a diehard fan of all those and still am. Just with the Rangers, it's in a little bit of a different capacity, I guess. So seeing this team win games was a lot of fun. I'm just, I think I probably echo a lot of people's sentiments in saying that, we'd love to combine this team winning games and Eric back in the booth, and that will, make it feel a lot more complete.
As we continue a little bit of the look back on the first half of the season and remaining in the positive realm, myself and KG reached a point yesterday where we asked ourselves, have we somehow still underrated the job that Josh Jung has done in a rookie year in the first half of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're only talking about Josh Jung, and through the lens of possible rookie of the year winner, then yes, because this guy has been one of the best third basemen in baseball and maybe the best third baseman in the American League. And I'm not using the fan vote to determine that, although I would tell you that it's impressive that the Rangers, a team that has not won over the last 6 years, that has the Bally issue, that does not provide for the same level of free marketing that, non-Bally teams might have with all that TV exposure, went up against a lot of Blue Jays, guys on a team that have performed really well over the last few years, that have an entire country's backing, and they won the fan vote. And I think a part of that, maybe a large part of that, is a credit to the Rangers fan base. But I think another part of that is just baseball fans, when they're deciding to cast an impartial ballot, looking at the numbers and saying, hey, I mean, Josh Jung's the guy. And, those numbers usually are only offensively driven. Josh Jung has been outstanding at third. I'll be honest. I mean, I think I said this on air. Like, one of my big concerns was this infield defense, especially in this first year without the shift rules that, we had utilized in recent years permissible. And, Marcus Semien, I think, was the one known commodity, right? I think, like, you looked at the four infielders. I'm not talking about catcher. You looked at the four infielders, and if I asked you, hey, defensively, who are you most confident in? I think, across the board, you'd say Marcus Semien. Well, Nathaniel Lowe, metrically speaking, has gone from one of the lowest-rated defensive first baseman to the best-rated defensive first baseman in the American League. Corey Seager has done a really nice job at shortstop. And Josh Jung is one of the better defensive-rated third basemen in baseball, and that was a big question. I think that was maybe not even so much a question, but for some people a concern. But I promise you guys, you watch every game, 9 innings, you're going to see one play per game, it feels like, where Josh Jung is making a play defensively that makes you say, holy smokes. And he had a play against the Nationals over the weekend. It was a Brooks Robinson type play where he had a ground ball. The momentum carried him into foul ground. He made this deep, long throw to get, I think it was Stone Garrett, maybe. I forget who the runner was. Maybe Dominic Smith, Stone Garrett, someone who's hitting 6th or 7th in their lineup. But, it was an incredibly impressive play. And so I think that if you're not talking about Josh Jung through the lens of one of the best third basemen in Major League Baseball, then yeah, I think you are selling him short.
Jared Sandler joining us here on the Get Right with Reggie KG here on 105 through the Fan as we look back at the Rangers' first half of the year and a look forward to the second half of the year. Before we move toward the second half, the proverbial second half of the season, let's put what Corey Seager has done since returning from the IL in mid-May into perspective here, because the numbers that he has put up rival that only to Shohei Ohtani at this point in a lot of the major offensive categories since Corey Seager's return from the IL.
Yeah, KG, I don't even know what to say. I said before I thought Corey Seager was like a top 5 to 10 hitter in baseball. And I truly believe that. I would put my chips in the middle of the table for that. I mean, this guy is special. And even though the numbers maybe on the whole wouldn't indicate that last year, there was a lot. If you just watch the games, you would recognize like, hey, there's something different about this cat. Well, I think on Friday, maybe Saturday, Corey Seager's OPS was better than Shohei Ohtani's. It was better than Ronald Acuna Jr.'s. It was better than everyone else in Major League Baseball. So just think about that for a second. Now, I think he's second now. He's second behind Ohtani because I think he went 1 for 8 over the final 2 games in Washington. But just think about that for a second. We're not talking about a guy who's really good. We're not talking about a guy who's starting, at his position for his league in the All-Star game. It doesn't just end there. We're talking about a guy who a couple of days ago had the best OPS in Major League Baseball. And then think about, all the chatter about some of these other superstars around the league. Now, am I saying that Corey Seager's better than Shohei Ohtani or Ronald Acuna Jr.? I think what I'm saying is that offensively speaking, as a hitter, Corey Seager deserves to be in that conversation. And I'm not saying he should win the MVP over Shohei Ohtani because obviously Shohei Ohtani is absurd. But Corey Seager deserves to be thought of in that way. And I don't know. You sign a guy to a 10-year deal for $325 million. There are a lot of millions of reasons why that deal might not end up working out. But I don't know if there's anyone. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who would look at that deal and look at the production of Corey Seager and not think, hey, Chris Young and John Daniels did a heck of a job with this signing. Because this guy looks like someone who can carry a lineup for the next several years.
I mean, this is the great stuff that you get when you talk to Jared on the phone and just in general. Make sure you follow at Jared Sandler on Twitter, at Jared Sandler _ on Instagram, because I've really enjoyed the ways in which you have given us perspective on these players and how great it is, the things that they're doing over the course of the season. Now let's talk about the concerns.
Hey, Reg, can I say one thing quickly?
Please do.
And let's definitely talk about the concerns because they're real, right? I mean, this team did not end the first half strong, and I think there are fair questions to be asked, especially in advance of the trade deadline. But Evan Grant wrote an article yesterday in the Dallas Morning News, or I think it came out yesterday, about Corey Seager. And I just feel compelled to briefly talk about this. I know nothing I do is brief, so I'll do my best here.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
I've been with I first met Corey when he was 19. He was on the Great Lakes Loons. I was broadcasting for the Great Lakes Loons. We did not develop some amazing relationship. He was a quiet kid who worked his tail off and was just so baseball focused. We obviously interacted on a semi-regular basis, but that was about it. I've really gotten to know Corey over the last couple of years, and I thought he was painted in a very unfair light last year. Corey is not someone who seeks out attention. He doesn't care about that. Corey is someone who, when he retires, you might never hear from him again except for at Rangers Hall of Fame type events, right? He's not someone who's going to be behind a desk at Fox. He's not going to be, in the dugout as a hitting coach. He is someone who I think is very happy to just hide away. And because of that, sometimes I think people took that silence last year as confirmation of some of the BS storylines that were created about him being a bad teammate, him being all about himself. And I loved Evan's article because it started to paint him in, I think, what is the accurate and fair light of someone who cares a ton about winning. He cares a ton about being the best that he can be, and he cares a ton about his teammates. And if people are wondering, hey, what's this guy like? Because we don't hear from him very much. Go read that article, and I think you'll start to get a sense of who the best hitter on this Rangers team and one of the best players in Major League Baseball is in Corey Seager.
We're talking to Rangers play-by-play man on the Texas Rangers Radio Network, Jared Sandler, right here on 105 through the Fan. And Jared, let's talk about adding more teammates for Corey Seager. It's one of the things that has been talked about since damn near the beginning of the season. The idea of when's the trade deadline, when can this team make moves to add, particularly to the bullpen. And one thing I think you started talking about at one point, and we've seen the addition of Matt Bush. I mean, obviously, there's probably going to need to continue to be moves and trades from outside. But what potential answers to pitching questions could possibly be answered within the organization?
Yeah, and that's an important question, Reggie, because I do think they've got multiple moves to make before the trade deadline to help this bullpen out and help this team out externally. But the reality is this bullpen is going to need someone to step up internally to just help bridge the gap. You can't rebuild an entire bullpen between now and the trade deadline. Not that they need to rebuild an entire bullpen, but they're not necessarily one, and you can maybe say not just two moves away. So a few of the names that, maybe are worth considering. Alex Spees was a high-round pick of the Rangers several years ago. He stepped away from baseball to address maybe a lack of love for the game and some challenges, on the mental side. He is back, and he has been outstanding. Was recently promoted to AAA. He's a righty who throws hard, someone who can make a difference. Ryan Tepera is a major league vet who has had success in the major leagues, was DFA'd earlier this year. The Rangers signed him. He's been really good in AAA. Now, I haven't gotten to see him, right? So it's tough to know whether the numbers match up to the production or what they're seeing, but it's at least worth recognizing. Matt Bush. Ian Kennedy was actually brought back to the organization, I think, a month or so ago, and maybe he's someone who works his way back up. And then there are guys like Chase Lee and Mark Church, who I think are worth at least considering, and Danny Duffy and Kyle Funkhauser were a couple names that were tossed around, a month or so ago as they worked their way back from injury. So and maybe there's someone not on the list, but someone internally is going to have to step up and make a difference. And the guy that I'm really curious about is Alex Spees, and the guy that's probably the runner-up in that for me right now. If I had to power rank the internal options who are not at the major league level, I'd go with Ryan Tepera in that two-hole.
Jared, before we let you get out of here on this Wednesday night here, what are you looking most forward to the second half of the year? Because I'm reminded of what you said before the beginning of this season, which was if this team is playing meaningful baseball in September, it would be a successful season. I'm paraphrasing you in some ways, but at the same time, we are in that position for this team going forward into the second half of the year. Yeah,
and I would say it's fair to update those expectations. If this team doesn't make the playoffs, there will be a large degree of disappointment, right? Because of where they are, how they've positioned themselves, and what we've learned now through, just over 90 games in the season. But yeah, I'm excited for meaningful baseball, KG. I'm excited for games that continue to matter and maybe matter more and more with each passing day. I'm excited for what should be a really fun race in the AL West. Obviously, my heart and soul will be crushed if the Rangers don't beat out the Astros, but I'm so in love with the idea that this rivalry is a thing again. I love the fact that these two teams are the two teams that are fighting for the AL West. Don't count out the Mariners as a sneaky team, and I'm excited for this thing to get going here in the second half because the Rangers right out the gate go Guardians, Rays, Dodgers. That's a really, really tough homestand for a team that has not been playing well. I'm excited to see this team bounce back and play some games against playoff caliber teams. So it should be a lot of fun. And then obviously with each passing day, each passing hour, you get on Twitter and you keep, checking to see if any moves have been made or what the rumors are, because the Rangers for the first time in several years are buyers. And it's always way more exciting to be buyers than sellers. There is a gratification that comes with being a seller. I remember when the Rangers traded Joey Gallo, there was a level of excitement in the acquisitions of Josh Smith and Glenn Otto and Ezekiel Duran and Trevor Hauver. But the problem is you don't want to be an organization that is getting excited about acquiring guys who are a few years away. That's important, but you want to be the organization that's excited about acquiring an all-star or acquiring a guy who's going to make a difference now. And the Rangers, for the first time since 2016, are in that position. And I'm really excited to see what Chris Young and his front office are going to do between now and the trade deadline.